Hi everyone, my name is Mahiyad. I'm part of the Metro group, Metro testing. Is anyone here that hasn't heard of Metro testing? Oh, you haven't. Okay. This is a quality control, quality assurance company for construction. We're serving most of the time, 90% of our clients are general contractors. I, in particular, work a lot of times with forming companies specifically for flatness testing. So, yeah, I've been with the company for the past 3.5, well, I guess, yeah, 3.5 years. And about almost 3 years of that has been specifically with the flow flatness testing. So today, thanks for inviting me here. I'm gonna go through the same issues and problems that Chris actually told us. It was very informative. I really appreciate it. And there are some overlaps and some other areas that I'm going to touch on. So as Chris mentioned, there are gaps between placing the floors and when the flooring company comes to play. So because I was invited by the Formwork Association, I actually tailored it down right to the forming company. How is it actually addressing your issues? Hopefully it's going to help. Let me know if there is any problem with my presentation. I'm more than happy to change whatever I need to learn. So this is still working. Great. So this is actually what the outline of my talk is going to look like. So first we're going to talk about the flatness and levelness, what the difference is, what it means. And then the whole cycle from finishing the floor to the flooring of the floor. And then there are different types of floors, which some of them have different types of specialty measurement. We're going to go through that. And then this FL versus the straight edge, which Chris actually touched on. I'm going to explain it if there is. I have one slide at the end of my whole presentation to just specifically talk about what the problem with one of them is as opposed to the other. And then let's get real, how much it's costing. So basically how much whomever is going to pay us to do the test has to pay, and how much of the entire budget that would be. And then the other services that we provide in this area, I'll talk about that one too. And then the question and answer that I have put at the end doesn't mean that you need to hold on to your question until the end of the presentation. Please stop me at any time you have any question. Let's make it educational for me as well. I appreciate that. So let's start. This is basically what Chris was talking about, flatness versus levelness. So flatness is basically short range variation in the elevation. So the bumpiness of the slab is called flatness. The levelness is how much tilt is that, so a little bit longer range. So what we are talking about, shorter range and longer range, I mean, by shorter range, I mean within the 2 feet, 1 to 2 feet range is going to be flatness issue, and within 10 feet is going to be levelness issue. So a floor could be flat, but not level like this one. It's quite smooth, but it's not level, so it's tilted. Or it could be level, but not flat, so it's bumpy. It could be both flat and level, so it's a very good quality floor, if you call it. Or neither flat nor level, so it's actually coming down or going up and then it's bumpy. So that's basically 4 possibilities for it. So, any question about it? Okay, great. So, let's go through this cycle that all of us have been through. Well, you guys have been through. I'm coming somewhere at the end when the arguments come to play. So the slab is placed and finished. Then a few weeks later, is it going back as well? Okay, yeah. Few weeks later, the shores are removed. This is what's going to happen. So the deflection is happening on the slabs, as you were talking about.
A few days later.
Few days later, are the shores removed, or are the deflection happening?
It's usually not a few weeks, it's usually sooner than that.
Oh, you remove the shores sooner than
Oh, sure.
years. Oh, okay. It's interesting.
But it's reshoring.
Yeah. On a typical tower, you would strip, say 3 days later, but sometimes if you miss a cycle, you gotta strip within 18 hours, 24 hours. And when you drop a flat table, you can't hop all the shores out there till the table's out. Well, you don't generally drop a table and fly, and then drop a table and fly, you drop them all. So they get, say, 2 to 4 hours of carrying themselves. That's where we lose a lot of,
Great.
and it's still green. I mean, I don't know how many times Kenny's told me that it's a week later, it's still green.
Wow.
So is there no industry standard that governs how quickly you can take a shore?
I'm not aware of it.
Well, most guys pursuing an MBA, right?
There is this engineer.
He's 1,800 years before you can take the table.
We just had RJC change the general notes from 18 to 80% of design strength. So you can strip at 18, and you get a cylinder break from Metro, yeah, you're good to go, off you go. Now they want 80% of design strength. So if you got a 40 MPa slab, you gotta wait till it's 30.
Doesn't matter, it will not work either way.
I'm just saying that it used to be, so that would give us some leeway, but now they're making it even tighter, plus they don't move the schedule ever,
Right,
right?
that's the.
You have your typical floors, when you're putting the top floor, usually using like this is a couple structural drawings, couple structural companies, Loudon Simpson, Rick Jones asking for medium key floors now, reshoring.
Yeah.
Your last floor under the reshoring will be post 1 month old. There's only one what is 28 days old concrete.
Yeah.
All other ones are green concrete. And when you're stripping them, another thing what we're doing wrong, we're stripping full areas at the same time. It's not supposed to be done like that. It's supposed to have reshore right away or take half of the tables down and put that, but it's so expensive. And someone has to decide about that. And the worst of everything is slabs are designed really so thin. That's the main issue. Because general contractors or whoever is like developers, they're getting buildings for a smaller price. You don't care if you have 10 inches or you have 8 inches. Your square footage is same. But for 10 inches, like you will not have that deflection what you have right now. And when you speak, like you have, there's huge issues here, because when you drop something on, there's certain formula really for deflection or for design of the slabs or beams, and they're going over the numbers what they're supposed to do. Like they will take the load, but deflection or creep will be much bigger than supposed to.
It won't fail, but
They will not fail, right? It's like creep is huge because you have small cracks at the bottom, what you couldn't see, and that just undisturbed concrete from that crack to the top. That's in a formula how you're getting really floor to hole with the deflection, and they can go really for 2-3 years. And mostly, like I found one article from Australia where they tested. They followed a couple buildings for 6 years, and they had mostly the final deflection was 3 to 5 times bigger than the initial one.
Really?
Yeah,
3 to 5 times more
Yeah.
than the initial deflection.
that's right. I know, but nobody's checking here. Like that was maybe 7-8 months ago. There was some professor from UBC and a guy from JKK. They wanted to do something. They came to my office to talk about because they want to talk to structural engineers, figure out how to deal with this problem. Because it is a problem that's coming back to forming guys and to us, because they can sue us like what we're doing, like our reshoring is not done properly. And I don't know how to deal with that, because obviously, like, how many floors you have to reshore? So big price really for it.
Even if you reshore, it doesn't help, because the
No,
minute that you drop
of
the
course.
table, that one is green, it's gonna go. You're never gonna get it back out.
No, that's true.
Our thing is, we just do it the old school way that we can. Before we even drop the table, we shoot the floor,
Yeah,
and we have the superintendent up there with us. You look through the scope, that's what it is, that's your benchmark. You drop the table in front of them, there's your half inch. They know. And we move on from there. Your 80% that you're talking about, and they push you on schedule, it's their concrete. you get a better bench design, right? That's what we push on. If you lose a day on your schedule, push your rod busters, right? It's their concrete at the end of the day.
Yeah, you will deal with that every time. There's no way to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. I learned that you removed the shores.
Good teamwork.
Yeah, that was perfect. So, I'll change that. Because the reason I put that weeks up there is that I go to the...
It makes sense.
No, I go to the sites to perform the test to some of the sites, and then I see that from 5 levels below the shore is still there, so...
But what you're not seeing is the false work that was there before, that they put the concrete on,
Okay.
is removed.
Oh, and then they...
New shore
okay.
put in, so the
All right.
damage is done.
Okay, got you. And then the curling happens after the concrete ages. Usually with the thicker slabs it happens more because of the change difference in temperature and moisture in the center of the concrete, and the surface of that could go upward or downward. And all of these happens, and then the flooring contractor comes to the site. Is that timeline okay? 6 to 9 months, or is 9 months is too much? I throw this over here.
It depends on the
Yeah, it depends. Okay. So, and then the flooring company comes to the site, sees that it's not actually what he expected to be. So what happens is that it's a fight time. So basically, general contractor, forming company, and flooring company start to waste money and time finding the guilty person. So whose fault is it? Basically no one. This is all natural. So this is not, for sure, if assuming that you have done your part of the equation correct, it's not your fault. But I think I've heard that there are sometimes that the general contractor has more money, so they have more power, and then they said, I don't know
You have
whether
our
it's
money, you have our money.
Money holds the power.
Yeah. So what can we do here? And that's where actually floor plans testing comes to play. Let's first discuss the 2 different types of the floors. One is random traffic floors, in which people or vehicles or lift trucks, whatever it is, can go in any direction. 99% of the floors which are being constructed are random traffic floors. There is another type that's called defined traffic, and usually, well actually most of the time it's happening in warehouses with very narrow aisles, where there is this lift truck or material handling machine which goes back and forth between the aisles, and the wheels are for sure going on certain tracks, basically. So it doesn't have any room to go back and forth. Go side to side. It's just going back and forth through the aisle.
Yeah.
So that's called defined traffic. We for sure know where it's going. So the testing for these 2 are 2 different things. FMIN, if any of you have heard of it, 90% of my talk today is basically about the majority of work that you guys are doing, but I'm just letting you know that this FMIN measurement is there, which is for this type of work. So the other difference is that for FFFL measurement, this is a statistical measurement. Because we don't know which directions are going to be walked on, or basically vehicles is moving on, we're going to have to, based on ASTM 11.5, we're going to have to select samples in both directions, so in perpendicular and parallel to the longest edge of the slab, or 45 degrees, so that we collect enough data to be representative of the entire floor. So we say, okay, this floor has these numbers plus or minus something. And the more data you collect, that interval confidence reduces. Not that it matters, but just let you know. Now, there's 2 methods of measurement, exactly as Chris mentioned. There's a straight edge, a gap under straight edge, and there is F number system. So it's been around for more than 50 years, and every one almost is aware of that. However, some people are not still aware of the fact that it's not accepted based on CSA anymore. They're still putting it in the specifications because of, I don't know what, but I can go into the details of why CSA may have removed it. There are two major problems with that. One of them is that it doesn't give any information about the levelness, so how much tilt the slab is. So if you put the straight edge against the wall, it's going to read a number. It doesn't understand that it's actually vertical. So if you put it somewhere which is slope, again, it doesn't understand it. However, on the other side, dipstick, the equipment that's called dipstick, understand the tilt. So basically what it is a electronic level which works with gravity. So if it goes up, it understands that it's going up, or if it goes down, it understands that it's going down. And okay, and so right now this one is the only accepted method for testing the floor flatness, basically for the I think division 3 is that part. Now, is there any part in the CSA talking about straight edge for the?
No, I know that ASTM don't have
Yeah.
a guide for sort of identifies.
Yeah, CSA usually table 22 or 21, depending on which version you're looking at, used to have straight edge comparing it with the F number, so that if you are actually looking for a quarter of an inch over 10 feet, you need to be looking at 20, 25, 20 for the FFFL. But after 2014, they removed the straight edge altogether. So the industry is moving towards that, I believe, at least the standards are, but with a lag, because we still see some specifications which are talking about straight edge. Now, how the measurements are done for the FFFL, we design a layout. As I mentioned, there are two different direction of measurement, so that they're not biased towards any direction. If the travel is going this way, and then we go perpendicular to that, it's going to be really bad. And then if you go parallel to that, it's going to be really good. So neither of them is the representative of the overall view of the slot. That's why we go to the, we have to go to two direction, or go to 45 degrees, so that we pick both aspects of the slot. And the test is, oops. Okay, so you saw all of it. All right, so the test is done within 72 hours of the concrete placement. So that's a requirement of the ACI, CSA, and STM. Why is that the case? Because it's basically testing whether the finishing company, the forming company has done their part in this. So everything after this is not going to be your fault if you pass. So that's a requirement within 72 hours of the test. And then after that, we take and collect data, goes back to the office, we do the data analysis and prepare the report, send it to you, and or the GC, whoever is hired us. That's pretty much these three steps involved in this. Now, how much does it cost? So our rate is $95 an hour plus people and equipment charge. So estimated total cost for this is about $1,000 per pour. I'm talking about normal, where it's not like a huge slab. So depends on the size of the slab, it's on the shape of the slab, and the time of the test. We usually go before 7 a.m. so that you're not interfering with the crew. So that's going to be a little bit over time, but that's already included in this. That's the details of our cost. Now let's see the big picture. Let's assume that we have a 25-story project. So let's have a residential 25-story, and it's a very fancy one. Well, not very, but relatively fancy. So it's gonna, the entire budget is about $100 million. Is that, first of all, a good estimate?
For everything, all costs in.
Everything, yeah. So let's call it, for the sake of argument, $100 million. Now, let's assume that this whole circle is $100 million. I guess 5% of that goes to the forming comp. Is that a good estimate? More or less? Yeah? Yeah, it's about right? Okay, good. So about 5 million of that is going to go to the forming comp, plus or minus. And now let's see how much of that is going to go to the flatness testing. And if you think that our rates are too low that you don't see this red dot here, I just put that earlier. This is actually the portion of the entire cost for the cost that you guys have. So basically, and that's the very maximum. I'm assuming that each floor has 2 cores. So if it's 1 core per floor, it's going to be half of that. So 1% of forming finishing company budget is fairly
How long does it take you to do a 10,000 square foot slab?
to measure it, or
Yeah, to measure.
a couple of hours.
2 hours?
2 hours. Yeah. We go at 5 and you're done by 7. So it's somewhere between an hour and 2 hours. Just the testing or on the site.
So right now, on average, your industry gets the 72-hour, it's the 72-hour stage, and you don't have a standard test for the flatness that you provide.
No, not easy to speak for that because I think some do and some don't, depending on, I think, what laws we have.
We've used their service, and they come anywhere the day after the slab is poured to just before we drop materials.
How often do you not do something like this?
Depends on the project and the budget.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah, and who you're working for. There's different methods that you can use.
If you don't have a good relationship with the general contractor, you probably want to do that to protect yourself.
I mean, there's a movement inside of this group is to try and get away from the placing of the slabs from within our scope, which is, getting a little bit of traction. I think in a perfect world it does go that way ultimately, because then this whole conversation is off the board. The general contractor can deal with the floor flatness. It's his problem. It's in your guys' spec. You're saying that it can just be all that.
It's part of the gap.
The liability keeps getting pushed onto us. We're replacing the concrete. It's their concrete, but we fight with the rebar placement. We hide all the rebar deficiencies right out as soon as we're done. They're
So
done.
this is your avoid the back charge card.
We're trying.
That's our insurance.
So it is an insurance, but it's still at the same time, it comes, depending how savvy the contract writer is, you can either be hooked on it or even with this proof that you've done, because they just deny that creek exists and, or deflection.
We used this on a job once, and they gave the certification from Metro, and they wiped our hands. We didn't get a single dollar thrown back at us, and it was 300,000-400,000 square feet. We were in every slab we did, $1,000 a shot, and it was great insurance.
Yeah, we did it at the hospital.
That little dot on the top right.
But it wasn't expensive.
But that job where he's got his picture, where the forming contractor, through that, he's got a picture of, that's a job where the contractor had, I'm pretty sure it's my job, it's a job where they had to carry it. I said, no, I'm looking at the floor finishing. And they didn't manage it properly, and it's a really shitty floor. And then they ran it to the flooring contractor. And then the flooring contractor walks out, but that's where.
But again, it depends on the owner. When we did Trump Tower, we gave credit back for us just to do any floor on the floor. And they used that floating system and they flooded every floor perfectly in every trade. The whole project went really well. From the trades that were relying on a flat floor, it worked out really, really well. So, that's where we've tried. We just got awarded a project and gave a huge credit back to them if they go and flood it. They said no. Don't keep your credit. We want you guys to take burden that cost.
But now, actually build along with this and actually write this in.
Well, it's up to us whether we want to go this way. But if we can work with a contractor, we know that we'll be fine with just plain old community floors after the drywall is done. Like kind of bringing it up to your guys' spec, what you guys are looking for, that we're.
Why wouldn't you want that?
I think it's the cost, yeah.
So again, approved into the spec and budgeted by the owner, it's paid for every bid.
Oh, yeah.
That's the right thing is done.
The best thing that should happen is they flood their roof. That's where we have to. Like, if they can do that, everybody, your world, everybody's world. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier the dipstick test that, and based on your drawing there, where you're doing the X and Y axis, your problem doesn't actually necessarily disappear when you come in because they've only gone towards the outside of the building and viewed the column. How close do you get to that test?
Within 2 feet, that's correct. I mean, we're not allowed to go closer to 2 feet to the columns.
You're not allowed to join because the CSA spec?
Exactly.
And what is that?
Well, the reason is, I think, the reason is basically we are there to test how well the finishing company has worked. Placed and finished. Yeah. So it is hard to get all of those draws to the edge of the slabs and to the columns. So that's why actually ASTM P1155 has asked the tester, the inspector, to stay away from it. That's actually a favor to the forming finishing company. So that if it's a pass, the good part of the slab is tested and it's passed. I still agree with Chris that it is not measuring all the point to the edge, but it's not your fault, basically. If you fail what you actually promised, it is your fault. So I'm not saying that it happens, but you have to fix it. But if you are doing a good job, you should not get fined because of some natural behavior of this line. So those costs has to be
confirming the position where you've done that job.
Exactly.
Exactly. If there's going to be a leg between a door like this, that's something else.
Exactly. So now, just so you guys are aware, what we are doing right now as a kind of backburner research and development program, we are testing FFFL. We are comparing with straight edge testing whether or not one table, which is in 2009 version of CSA, is accurate, which we believe is not. That's one thing that we're doing. Over there, it says 1/4 inch over 10 feet is equivalent to 2520. And we believe that 2520 is much better quality than 1/4 inch over 10 feet. So it's much easier to pass the 1/4 inch over 10 feet than 2520. Well, it's not much easier, but it's relatively easy. So we are actually doing this for 25 and then see whether there's any correlation between them or not at all. The other thing is, that's exactly what you guys was referring to. The other thing is we are forming the FFFL as built, so within 72 hours we are testing it, and then we would like to get our hands to the floor cleared, hopefully, after the shores are removed and after several months has passed, and then see how these numbers are changed. Because I believe there are some part of that document that you shared with us is touching on that, but there's not enough of data in there because usually it's impossible to get our hands to the floor after months because all the trays are there and you really can't measure the slab anymore. But we are hoping to actually look through our relationship with our clients to generate those data, and then maybe we share it with you. It might actually help with what you're thinking. So my 2 cents here is basically think of it, as you all mentioned, as an insurance for yourself. So if you have done a good job, spend 1% of the budget on testing it and then just using it as a proof that you have experienced that okay, we did our part, whatever has happened since then, it's not my fault. And we are there to protect you. If we are there to test this lab for you and you pass, we're there, we're going to defend you. I'm not saying that defense is going to go well depending on thing, but if there is a report from Metro Testing saying that these guys have passed, and later on there is any conversation, you are my client, I'm going to be there, I'm going to defend you. So that's basically what I'm trying. Yes, sir.
What percentage of your slabs pass?
That was my question.
That's a very good question. That's actually what happens usually, let's say that you have a tower, and there are, I don't know how many pours is happening. Usually the first 4 or 5 pours are going to fail. And after that, if people realize that it's actually something important, they do a better job, and then moving forward, it's going to pass. So if you're not doing it, you may not know that you're not actually there yet. So we kind of actually improve the quality, which is good for our general contractor clients. And also, if you pass after a while, you actually get that insurance, basically.
Here's a question, how often do you fail something? Quite often?
We fail whenever it's failing. So yeah, it's, again, as I said, whenever we start a project, usually the first 5 pours are failing. Usually the beginnings are almost always fail.
We've done this, and the way we spun it is they came out, that time was a straight edge test. So they came out, they did the floor flatness, and the finishes that we had, we're gonna pay you so much for placing, we're gonna pay you so much for finishing. So you had a number of 100, down to 80. And your percentage of finishing depended on that number that came out of your floor flatness. Because for us anyways, the guy comes and places the slab, you pay him, comes time to finish the floor, he's fucking gone, he's not coming back to finish the floor. So that way, you did that, you gotta get the money out of him, or it was soon enough, he could come fix that floor right away, you hand that report to the general, you're done. You know what I mean, you have a problem later on in the steel stud or whatever else, that's your issue.
Exactly.
Right? That was the way we spun it. It was a good insurance, but also it kept our placing guy in there to tow as well too, because all of a sudden, and you went through stuff the first couple of times, well, that humps was the formwork. Well, hold on, it's only 1 day old, I've dropped it. You go down and you look at the whole thing. If it was the formwork, you could fix your formwork and solve that problem. If it's not the formwork, he'd come in and hammer down the slab.
Do you not have a deficiency hold back on your placing?
No.
Should. Works out well, they come back for it.
Yeah.
I had a tower one time, we hired you guys to do the testing, and they wouldn't accept the test.
Which one was the tower?
The 3CP in Wally.
When was it? Was it within the past 3 years?
No, it's a year ago. No, what was the term, Bradley? That wasn't the intent of the...
That's not the intent of the contract.
Oh, you were talking about Civic Plaza. We actually met over there. Okay, yeah. Again,
They just
that was
looked at all
not the
your nice
contract.
data and said, yeah, this isn't the intent of the contract.
I was ready to protect Brad. I mean, I was actually told him, I was telling him that go Brad, I'm here because there are 2 things in the spec. If you remember, one was straight edge, the other one was FF. And then he could have chosen either of them, but then because that was a client that Brad knew that, or no, I don't know, or for some reason you thought that okay, it's better to just.
Well, they
I
weren't accepting it. They just, no, fix it. We're keeping your money.
I mean,
So are you saying...
So why keep paying you to do this when they're not gonna
Yeah.
accept it?
Exactly.
That's
my
what we-
point was that I was there for free to help you
Yeah.
to actually push them, saying that you have these 2 in your contract.
Yeah.
So I am choosing whichever I want.
Yeah.
And you are actually, you have that right to choose the one which is easier.
It wasn't in the spec to have him on site.
Nope.
So the spec is all about.
Yeah, the spec was, it had an either or. You can either straight edge
Either or that,
dipstick.
yes.
And I talked to Philippe before we did it, this is what we want to do, okay?
And it was a pass. The test was a pass.
But I
And
still
they
paid
said,
about
well,
6K to fix the floor.
We actually have, and then again, because there were 2 things contradictory in one contract.
Yeah.
You could have said that, you know what, I signed this, I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
But because, again, they have more.
They just have more money.
And then you wanted to get more project probably later on. You chose
One thing I
to.
did want to ask is, if we did this 1/2 inch low, does your dipstick work on a bowl floated surface, or does it have to be power draw?
No, it works everywhere.
So it can be just a floated floor?
It just
You know how you
measures
get
the
those-
elevations.
Yeah, well, when you float it, you always get those little
Yeah,
ridges and stuff.
The legs are that wide on the dipstick, so anything smaller than that, it doesn't even notice. It's basically there to measure the elevation change within 1 foot. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question of the forming places? Speaking on behalf of Division 9, Europe it's very common in Europe to have a rough screed finish. Only is it in North America do we have ride-ons and blow floats, and we're trying to create this glass smooth floor because it looks pretty. And in actual fact, it causes a lot more damage and repercussions in the back end. Just out of curiosity, from Division 9, and I'm a manufacturer of materials manufacturer, rather. Just out of curiosity, have you guys had this dialogue and this discussion with the GCs? Because it seems to me that the disconnect is at the GC level, right? They're holding you guys hostage, and they're holding the floor covering Division 9 hostage, and there's a clear disconnect. Yeah. So there is no discussion in how to remediate it, and I mean, it keeps my plant pumping, but floor covering installation companies and contractors are constantly put over the barrel in the final rear end, questioning your FF and FL test results, when it seems to me that most of this could be resolved simply by sticking together and saying, you know what, we're going to cut back that 2 cents or $2 per square foot. We're going to leave it as a rough screed finish like they do in Europe, and we're going to level everything into it. Because I can tell you, every single one of these towers down Low Heat Highway, every single one of them is level. And the GCs know it. They know it before it's even dug a hole in the ground. They're going to level. And there's money in that contingency, and yet you guys are still being...
Whatever they can get out of us,
Right.
they just save on their budget, on
So-
that contingency.
So let's work together on this, and let's try to get the message across to the right people. It's not us blaming you guys.
No,
That's not what it is.
well, it's basically the workers that are finishing power truck, and that's happening late at night. I mean, we're all gone, I mean, for the most part, with the exception of a couple guys. So how far do they take it to a polish is up to them. To answer your question, no, we do not talk to anybody, to the general contractors about what level of finish it is. I don't really even expect as to what level finish it gets to. But there are certain components of the balconies need to get to a certain polish.
Right.
But in a rained out slab, everybody's, that's what has to. So the rained out slab is done. We have to come back and do our best to grind it, finish it, get it back to get some type of acceptable.
Yeah, and that we get, we're gonna see rained out anyways, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I think we're.
But I totally agree with you, we have to work together. Like, we gotta get our two divisions. We need to quote your division in our tender form. And I think you guys need to do the same in your form, saying that, you know, we expect Division 3, you know,
And we don't even talk about, we haven't even brought up the topic of dissipated water and vapor and all that. I mean, how potentially disruptive that can be to the end result as well. So that's a whole other section of the discussion. But it's us getting together with you guys and saying, hey guys, we're preaching from the same hymnal. Right? That's a big thing, right?
yeah, I agree. No,
I apologize. but-
No, that's good.
No, that's why we're all together.
That's the whole reason, yeah. So,
They got stick stuff, and then we talk to them.
I'm just gonna quickly touch on other special testing which we do on the floor plans testing. One of them is effluent measurement, as I mentioned, for warehouses. So this is basically a typical slab that needs to be tested for effluent when they have these material handling machine which goes off and then run. So if there's a slight change in the elevation at the bottom, it's going to be quite a racking on top. So it might actually damage the racks as well. So for this test, before we actually perform the test, we need to know what material handling machine is going to go on the floor, so that we know the wheelbases, we know exactly whether it's 4-wheel, it's 3-wheel. So we need to have that specification. Second, we go test it. This is actually me myself performing this test at UBC. They were actually doing this for an archive where they actually have a book starters. They were robots going, picking up the books. So they didn't want to pick the wrong book. basically. And then we perform the data analysis. For example, this is one of the runs. So don't look at how much it goes up and down, but look at how good of a slab it's hit. So it's basically at the worst, from the very minimum to the maximum of that is within 6-7 millimeters. So we're talking about something fairly good, but it was still not good enough for this purpose. Then what we do is that we give them grinding instruction. We tell them where to grind by how much so that you achieve that requirements. And then after grinding, you see this blue lines. That's actually after grinding. So all of these two high
Did you want to go back to that part right there?
Which one?
The right at the right-hand side, where it was like 3 mils, and we can go back to that.
Oh, this one? Oh, yeah, they're actually grounded probably too much. I didn't grind it, but yeah. So I was there, but it's actually pretty smoother right now. It's within almost 2 or 2.5 millimeters. Dead flat. That's one of the services. The other one is 3D map. Now, what would happen if the slab needs to be flat, but it's not? So they call us to perform this type of test. So we go there, we measure on a grid, and produce this 3D map. We tell them where the highest spots are, and these are, and then where the low spots are. And then we can calculate whether it's cheaper to grind or it's cheaper to fill it up with the material, for example, from Arctics, which is usually the case. To fill it up is going to be cheaper because grinding is really time consuming. Yes, sir.
It's also fair to say that that's going to be different. The 3D mapping will be different at month 3 as opposed to month 7.
Exactly. That's actually done, usually it's done right before when they want to actually put the flooring on, so that hopefully majority of the deflections and carolling and stuff has happened. Yes, exactly.
On that note,
Yes.
is there a plan, is there a specification or a plan or a product? And we have to go and do a fix a rain out slab. We're gonna do it just after the drywall's done. We clear the room, that's when we like to come in and do it. Is there a product you guys would meet the specs so that the hydration level of that product is acceptable to your finishers?
Absolutely.
So that's something else we need to, if you can get that to one of us, then we can put that into the spec and tell the owner, like on our sheet, that a panel needs to be a certain spec.
Yeah, all the
To me.
panels, they have different PSI strengths and different
Yeah.
hydration rates, so absolutely.
But it depends on the general, well, depending on how cheap they are, will either buy a decent product or they'll go and buy whatever.
Correct.
It'll normally take on the moisture level of the slab.
Yeah, well, that's so far past where we're well past any hydration. I don't want to be adding a product. If we can get them to get a good product there and just say, this is what we're expecting industry-wide for the, and we're adding your guys' out for your.
Yeah.
Your
You want
guys'
something that's gonna hydrate quick and grab quick.
But it's easy for us to put it into our tender document, and so it's just there, it's just.
Actually easy to say to whoever's doing the
Yeah.
project, to recommend a product for us to use, out of the loop.
Yeah.
Right? So ABC Flooring says, I want you to use this product, then
Yeah.
we do it, and
And
then
see,
it's done.
this is a really good conversation to have with you guys because you guys understand the importance of quickness of turnaround.
Yeah.
When we come in, typically, the materials guys that come in to remediate this, we're typically being pressed against the wheel, against the grinder, for the cheapest, lowest product by the GC. Fix it, get it flat so my cabinets aren't twisted and tilted. That's all they care about. And they don't understand the importance of actually having the proper hydrated material or the chemistry behind it, so.
If you can get that, if you can get us whatever the spec is.
So that product should be recommended by the flooring.
Well, I don't think we can say it, we can't say a product, we have to say
Well,
The
whatever.
spec.
we have to have a spec in our thing for their division as a separate line item.
X amount of
Yeah.
hours, days.
Because we don't know what goes on, we're just fixing like a bunch of dummies.
The more we throw their division or their association on our, the better, the stronger our tender document gets.
Exactly.
Is there an issue with laminating toppings? Because often we are called to a certain level, 1/4 inch to 10 feet. Flooring guys are called to an 1/8 inch and 10 feet. So now, if we go and put a slot of fill into the center of a room to meet our spec, that puddle gets 4 times larger when the flooring guy comes in and does his prep work to get his tolerance. So is there, like, now you have a laminated topping on
Well,
top
one of
of
the
a
things
concrete
we
slab, right?
Not to that point, one of our recent negotiations, we actually said we'd like to come back to the flooring guys and we give them money out of our pocket to them to take it to the tolerance they want for the finish we get.
First time.
Well, first time.
Well, yeah,
Same
so
thing
doing
with
that just makes a
same with
lot of
drywall.
sense, right?
You're always going back and fighting with the drywall guys for the ceiling. We just go back and make a deal, $1,000 a floor, whatever, to the,
Oh, why shouldn't we?
for the ceiling if we've
Oh, I
got.
know for the ceiling.
Yeah. But for the floor, I mean, if you've got money, and I'm carrying ridiculous amounts of money in my flooring budget. Yeah, I'm so fed up with it.
So just to help you out with that, you're absolutely right. I think if we have the conversations in advance, it really makes a difference because you can't just cap something that's already been done. 9 times out of 10, the flooring installation companies will go in and they'll do a scratch test or they'll do a Mohs test, hardness test on whatever's been filled in to do we call them bird baths. So if they're, and if it doesn't bond well, a lot of times the guys that are placing these little bird bath fills, the preparation isn't done properly, the primers aren't used, and now you have a complete despond. You have a potential for so now they come back to you guys and say, well, you guys did the original repair wrong. Why not do it right the first time?
Well, I mean, for the most part, you look at a bedroom. You're asking if the belly of the bedroom is what's sagged, and we're going to go fill it up. Well, I mean, the bed takes up the entire room anyways. Right? And yet here we're having a level underneath the bed. That is never going to get seen. It's really quite stupid. Why we're not focusing on the kitchen and the living area as our primary focus, but that's usually where you get the biggest sag, because that's the biggest open span of the space. So
But there's 2 issues here. Like, you said you carried enough money in your budget, and that's great that you were able to do that. But we all know that necessarily, depending on the type of work we're getting or the state of the industry, you don't always have that luxury. So if you continue to afford that service to them, right, without spelling it out.
But I'm taking it in part of my negotiation strategy is like, I'm trying to keep it back to the front so that we don't have to do it. Like we are excluding in our new tender form, we're saying flat work is excluded. Or you have to check that off. Well, it works, you know, it's working for cyber, but it isn't working well for us. So we just went and bought 2 pumps. So we're kind of committed to the flat work placing component. I think
Whereas solar flattening company, I think this is
I'll talk to you later.
For a couple more
My point wasn't big anyway. My point was we should still spell it out.
Yeah.
Whether or not you supply or
I want to know
other services, but I agree, that you're dealing directly with this.
Want to align our tender documents closely with these guys so that there's that's a big, we fight for this all the time. But we can just bring these 2 associations together and be quite arm in arm on this. I think it'll be good for everybody.
Yeah.
But I would love if you guys would take over that plan-out component. I know
The tough
that,
thing is you can spend,
Yeah.
whatever, $17 for a bag leveler, or you could spend $60 a bag.
Yeah, but
But
we're-
we don't have a specific standard within those type of products to say.
we don't need to spend that. That is not a product, they are spending that money. General contractor, they're supplying the concrete.
The owner is supposed to be.
The owner, we're just
They want
providing the
the
labor.
Yeah.
So that's where we get that stickling point. And it is the slab creep that we're being pressured to fix because we haven't gone and used these guys to begin with.
Okay, another question. So if everybody's pouring a slab on Thursday, which is gonna be about 180 slabs, you know, if there's Friday morning, you put them like a month ahead.
$1,000 just rent for 1,200 for you.
Roland's gonna be very happy with you.
Well, the thing is, it's not just me. We have a team, basically.
So you got more than 5 minutes, because, you got Thursday, on Thursday.
We have
you finish all
actually
your
three
trades on
equipment
Thursdays.
at the branch already. And we're aiming to increase that for the coming year.
Right.
And with that, we have been able to accommodate sometimes in our peak times about 10 slabs. Not per day, but 10 ongoing projects,
Right.
or 15 ongoing projects. Usually they don't happen at the same time, but sometimes they happen, which we have enough people. So 3 slabs at the same day, we have handled that. So,
Right.
and that's basically, yeah, but if that happens, I would be more than happy to train some of those.
Just push.
Diana is talking about, and exactly.
Yeah.
It's it's a little bit of it's not very easy to perform this test because there are several things to consider when you are doing the test. But usually it's not too difficult. It doesn't really need it. So that's the same slab with the with another type, basically the contour map type of flooring. So that's another special test we do. So I learned this technique in the conferences that I attended when I was at the physics department at UBC. So when everyone is sleeping at the end of the talk, so you just want them to get the gist of what you were saying. So I would like to pass on 3 take-home messages to you guys. So if you didn't get anything out of what I was talking about, I'm just going to ask you to remember these 3 points. So time and money is being wasted over arguments on floor code. That's something that we all agree. Whoever has more money usually wins the argument, unless you have something out of your pocket, hopefully, and that's a cheap insurance. I call it cheap. I'm not sure if it's cheap or not, but that's 1% of your budget. I'm not sure if it's too much or if it's low or something like that. So floods testing, if you need something, please let us know. If you have any question, we're not going to charge for questions. We just charge you whenever you hire us to perform the test for you. So if you have concern about your contracts to begin with, I receive a lot of calls from our previous clients. Hey, this is actually our contract. Is it going to be a trouble later on? And I review that for free. This is actually part of our business development part. I get paid, but we don't charge the client. So I'm not doing a favor so much, but Metro is probably. So let me know. We're here to help, at least to our end, whatever you think that we could actually help you guys with to get this problem resolved. We're off with that.
Are you part of the BC Farming Association? That was my question. Is he a member?
Very good.
So in hindsight, where their discussion, like as Brad was saying, it's just general contractor told him to stick it up his ass. But you are legally, that is a legal representation of every floor.
Yes.
So if Brad had a ton of money, he could have went to court and you guys could play a game. You're saying, really, you're legal.
Yes, but what I'm trying to actually
Independent engineer with an acceptance system.
Yeah, that's correct.
because, for example, the general contractor might actually send somebody off and said, okay, we tested that, but no one is going to believe it because that's the general contractor himself.
Yeah.
If you go measure it and then you say it's a pass, it's not going to be quite dependable because it's going to be viewed. So basically, you're a third party here to just do the test.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a pass, it's a fail. And
Get the spec on your side, and then the next time maybe it's 50 grand, not 6 grand, and it's working in court. It's a difference in that. Get the spec on your side.
exactly. That's actually the point that I would like to actually add to these 3 points, that before you start, you make sure what would happen if something goes wrong. Because some of the slabs are going to fail, especially in the beginning. Are you going to pay for that? Is the general contractor going to put that in writing? And then hopefully if you have the power to do that. And then once you have it there, and then make sure that you have FFFL if you want to go with the quality. If you have a straight edge, it's going to be obsolete, but usually that's easier to pass. I didn't say that. So,
Question, have any of you guys ever had the general contractor come in and do the dip test? Paid for it?
yeah, a lot, actually.
And then feasibly that problem goes away after the deflection, everything happens months and months later.
You know, once you get third-party professional surveys that say it's okay, I was shocked at the acceptance I got from the Henry Park project. But we gave it to them, and that was the end of it.
And dealt with it, and they use their contingency fund.
They threw it
All-
back
all
to the owner
goes there.
and said, here, this is within tolerance at time of pouring. Now you or your engineer deal with it.
And remember, that was a pretty good finish. You're talking about Emily Carr. Yeah, I performed the test myself. It was one of the best in BC. And I'm actually shocked that that has gone to the arguments later on. If that project goes to the arguments, I think all of them are going. Yeah.
There's some confidence back in this team, yeah.
No, I mean, I don't have any problem. Actually, I was thinking of putting a kind of, not a kind of contest, but like award, the type of recognition that, okay, this is actually the best FFFL slab of 2017, for example. This is the company who did it, so it's going to make, actually, maybe you should. So you should basically hire me to test the person.
There it is. We're the worst one out there. I'm the worst as well, too.
So the slab that you shot,
Yes.
when I heard it's intolerance, I'm thinking, really? Did you screw something up? Because we're held to way tighter expectations than what your machine said was within tolerance.
Well, the thing is, our machine measures and calculates a number. Now, it's basically based on the contract, what numbers you are comparing this against. So the 25 may be a pass in this project, but maybe a fail in another project. So it could be that it's been, yeah. So basically somebody tells us this is actually the spec for us, then I'll go test. If it's higher, you're a pass. If it's lower, you're a fail. But again, you can't actually compare two projects to each other.
Because every contract is different.
Exactly. Because some of them, we have one project, sorry, go ahead.
Is it like a breathalyzer test where you come back and argue that it's not calibrated properly? Like, is that?
That's actually on us, and they performed it so
So you guys have it, you say it's calibrated for the tank?
And if it's not calibrated, it's actually obvious from the run profile, because it's going to be a sawdust. So we actually include those run profiles into our reports so that everything is on.
One thing I want to make very clear, and that is that there's different FF and FL number requirements for different types of floor coverings.
Exactly.
So although an FF or FL of 2535 may be standard for carpet, which is fine, for a large format ceramic tile, which is now 24 by 24 or hardwood floors, is actually FF 45. So your initial readings at the beginning are going to be calibrated at that, right?
What do you mean by calibrated?
Well, you'll initially be testing for that in the early stages.
Well, I don't care what I'm testing for. I'm just testing the slab, and then.
Right.
Yeah.
My point is in the first 72 hours,
Yes.
you're going to be able to hit that tolerance and more. In 13 months, when the floor covering, where the tall guys, hardwood floor guy gets onto the floor,
It's not there.
it ain't there.
Exactly.
So that's the clarity. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's actually what I was.
That brings everything back to what we said initially.
But I mean, but I think that's exactly what you're saying. If he's hired and by the general contractor, the form worker, and they've done their job, long before you get in, you guys do your test, you know, a month or two before, and you go, yeah, it's no good. They're not coming back. It's like, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do to make it right?
Well, the whole object is to make sure that the GC is carrying enough money in the budget. to get the floor covering guys.
Curving, we always know that it's sagging, it's deflecting over time.
Correct.
And that's.
Well, we have to get two associations together to tell them that it's actually, intelligent way, I guess. Instead of us swearing at each other in rooms. Right?
No more swearing after that.
The spec has to spell it out. So
Yep.
you've always got that to refer to. You'll end up in court. You know, judges don't know shit from Shinola when it comes to construction, and most of them absolutely do not. And so those guys, they're not going to debate the issue, they're just going to look for black and white, what they call specific performance. And if it's in the contracts in the spec, done. And if you've got that written in, you're gold. And somewhere in the middle will now lie the answer. Not for the floor guy to fix it, it's the GC will have to carry that money and spend it.
And I have actually seen this scenario several times, that it comes to the point that everything has been on the contract. The forming company has done his part, is off the hook, and then it's going to come to the general contractor not to pay from his money, from his bucket, but he's going to go to the owner and ask for more money. That's actually usually what eventually has to happen, because the owner should understand that this is happening, so they need to provide more money, or the GCs should start to realize that this is a cost that they need to account for.
They already know.
Okay,
It's already there.
Okay.
They're just trying to put it on to everyone
okay.
else.
That's their
All right.
voice.
Well, we're getting forced to help. Yeah.
You're not being forced to do
Yeah.
anything.
Thank you so much. That was it. If there is any other question, I'm more than happy to answer. If you're almost, I guess, done on time, but I leave my cards
Do
here.
you do, like you do the FFFL measures, do you also do straight edge?
We also do a straight edge. Well, we do whatever you guys pay us to do. We definitely do. No, I'm joking, but
Sort of.
sort of. Yeah, basically, straight edge is still there. So if somebody needs to test that, we are the testing company, and then we go there, perform tests. And why do I not like, actually, can I get my presentation back?
thank you,
Just
John.
quickly go through something. Why?
I actually turned it off that time. To be clear, I was going on. That was me.
That was good.
You kidding. Last slide?
Go, please, yeah, if you go to, well, actually, it's a little bit higher than that. Yeah. Where do you see me, actually?
Oh, we see you.
Yeah.
Please want your face back up there. All right.
Yeah. Then one thing that I want to point out, the first thing that I said about the straight edge testing is that it doesn't understand the slopes. So one of the problems is camber slab. So there are slabs that need to be cambered. So if I go to the site, perform the test with straight edge, you're going to get fail if you do a perfect job. So that's actually the part that you really need to actually get away from the straight edge.
Does the dipstick method take into account the camber?
The dipstick method, the difference is that the straight edge is 3 meters long, you just put it there and then it's going to rock back and forth. Dipstick is 1 foot. So it's going to go all and then coming back down over 3 meters. or so. Yeah. So basically, the good thing about the FFL number is that FF and FL are separated numbers. And CSA specifically says that for cambered slab, FL does not apply. So I can't fail you if you don't meet FL because it's going to be a low FL because of the camber. So FF is basically the smoothness of this cambered slab, and that's something that you should achieve.
Does your dipstick measure the camber or just the FF? So it doesn't tell you it's got a 1-inch camber in it?
It does tell you. It can actually give you.
It should be a free FL, right?
Yeah, it's going to actually produce. Let me just show you one of the.
20 meters.
So it's basically going to give you one of these. So if there is a slab, it's going to show you that this is the camber. It's going to give you the elevation over the length of each run. So if you want us to perform that, we do that. If you want us to perform the test on your formwork, so that you see whether it's flat or it's going to be problematic later on, we can come before the rebars are there to perform the test. So this is basically a measurement tool. Again, if you have some problem somewhere, let me know. I might actually come up with a solution, which is not in the standard, but it might actually help you. Now, what I wanted to refer to, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to turn off soon.
So this is actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Why F number system? It's the other issue here. So obviously these, let's assume that these are the profile of the slab. Obviously they are different. So I call this much better quality than this one. Because it's going up and down, but it's very in a longer range. So the difference in between the two techniques, if you call this length 10 feet, so you put straight edge up there and you measure in the center, it's going to give you this much gap. If you put it here, it's going to give you the same gap. If you put it here, it's going to give you the same gap. If you put it here, it's going to give you the same gap. The difference between these are the frequency and not the amplitude of this waviness. So for all of them, you get, let's say, on 1/8 of an inch or 10 feet. But when you actually, I plug these hypothetical shapes into the software or the FFFL number, and then these are the FF that I got. They are quite different. So this is FF70, and this one is FF18. So the higher, the better quality. The lower, the worse quality.
What's our flooring association like?
You want, well, that on the average, you want 25, 30.
21. Which one is FF? Which one? Because I have FF25, FL30.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Or
FL
higher.
higher than FF.
That's, yeah.
Or higher.
Or higher.
The lowest
Yes.
number
That's
you
the
want to
lowest
see
number.
is 25.
And that's going to depend on the floor covering. If an architect specifies a 48-inch by 48-inch tile, he then is going to refer to the manual and TTMAC, which is Authorized Marble Association of Canada. In there, they actually have a higher specification to a tolerance of FF45, 50. Right.
Based on my experience, I have a question for you. Based on my experience, 99.9% of the times that we perform the test, FF is higher than FL. For some reason.
Yes.
Your case is the other way around, so you want F35 FL, 25 FF, or?
25, it's usually 25, 35 or 25, 30.
So FL is higher.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they could achieve, I mean, this is weird.
We're not so concerned with level before. So,
But what's actually happening right now, you're more concerned with the level, because at 35, that means more
Well, that's-
quality and levelness.
that's just a correlation from straight edge to the F number. It's just a correlation between them. In reality, we don't really look for it. We can still install a floor like that.
Okay.
And meet our
So
standard.
FF is more important for you guys.
100%.
Yeah. So,
Right.
yeah. That's actually why I got confused why FF is lower than FL, because lower means worse. So, that was my.
It should be reversed.
Yeah,
You're right.
probably.
Yeah, I'll give you some numbers on all of the different floor covering requirements.
Right, I see. Okay, perfect.
So here's
Yeah,
the
that was
number.
basically what I wanted to mention about the straight edge and why it's been removed, because it was just, and then again, it could be really worse right here, and then right in the center, where we perform the measurement, it's in the center of the straight edge, it's going to be the same. Thanks so much for.
Hey,